From Mediaite, to exemplify the point, Fox News' Kennedy sounds the alarm over Kimmel suspension and warns Democrats could use precedent to target Fox. My response is, Kennedy, do you have amnesia? You work for Fox Business, I believe, and Tucker Carlson was kicked off the air. All his advertisers were pulled. Megyn Kelly got fired. I think she was was it NBC she was working for in the morning show? Roseanne got fired over a joke. I do not understand this. She said, I do have an issue with some of the statements made by Brendan Carr, because if there were an FCC commissioner on the other side of the political spectrum from someone maybe on this network and they didn't like their speech, would they put pressure on some of the advertisers? And if someone from Fox moved on to Fox Broadcast to some of the owned and operated stations there, that's the part of this that I do not like. So I made a list. It's not exhaustive. I'm going to read it for you. And I believe that Phil and all of you may be able to chime in. But let me just start with this. I tweeted, liberals and Democrats used the government to push for censorship of their political rivals, arrested their political rivals, got prominent comedians and personalities fired from their jobs, advocated death for children standing still in D.C. Remember that one? Mm-hmm. Falsely charged their political rival with fraud despite the alleged victims denying they were victimized, created special laws so people could sue and target their political rival, created a network of false information to smear their rival as a traitor, maliciously prosecuted the frontrunner for their rival party using fake charges with no underlying crimes, arrested rival politicians' lawyers for representing the politician, arrested teenagers for driving cars over sacred symbols, arrested people for burning their sacred flags, murdered Trump supporters and celebrated it. Aaron Danielson, Charlie Kirk, just two at the top of my head. There was also all of the people who died during the BLM riots. There was also the person who was shot in Provo, Utah. There's also, they made lists of the next targets to kill. Yeah. You know what? You get it. I say, we have learned. There is no more, but when they take power, they killed Charlie. There's literally nowhere else they can go. If they win, we know what they're willing to do, and killing us is already something they've done.
I mean, there was that program Arctic Frost that the FBI was using to target conservative organizations.
There's another one, including Charlie Kirk.
Just undisclosed in the past couple of days. This is not a situation where you can say, oh, well, if the right does it, then the left will do it when they get in power. They're going to do it when they get back in power anyways. We are literally living in a banana republic now. Don't kid yourself. This is not like stuff that happens in South America with basket case governments. This is happening in the United States right now. So I don't want to hear, oh, well, the left's going to do it if they get back in power, so you shouldn't do it. No, they're going to do it anyways. This is the reality of 2025.
It's going to be worse than that. And I'll add another one. They falsely accused independent media personalities of being paid money to spread Russian propaganda, despite the fact that the content we produced in the Culture War and the content Dave Rubin produced were often apolitical and nothing to do with politics at all. So in what way are Dave Rubin's reactions to funny viral videos like America's Funniest Home Video in any way spreading propaganda? When the Culture War show, you know what we're doing tomorrow? Exorcisms. Because the Culture War is about culture, not politics. Sometimes politics is involved, but typically it's not. And they lied. And a month after they announced that case, they dropped it. And this was in December under Biden. It was fake the whole time. And then in April, they totally just basically killed the case. Lauren Chen issued a statement about it. Now, that one's personal. And I have no problem adding it to the mix because I believe it was totally fake from the get-go. And so for those that don't know the story, in December of last year, I was begging my lawyers to get them to push this through and go public as heavy as they can. And we were instructed by the feds, they no longer had any interest in the case, and it was basically over. And I received my final bill, my final invoice. And I said, no. I said, what can I do to keep this going? I said, you can't. The DOJ issued the indictment. They have no evidence. They've dropped it. So what was this thing? What they are going to do if they win is so much worse than just this stupid idea of, but maybe they'll censor you. Already did that. And not only did they already censor, but Michael Reinoehl shot and killed Aaron Danielson. And you know what Crowder told me today, which is fascinating? When The Economist put out that who's more responsible for political violence, that's not included as left-wing extremism. BLM riots, which resulted in around either 26 to 32 deaths, do not count as political deaths. They are lying. And so hearing this, I'm just so sick of this argument. If the Democrats win the midterms Trump will be impeached. He will never get there will never be legislation put through. As bad as Mike Johnson is, that everyone complains about, Democrats will do substantially worse because Republicans aren't willing to. To be fair, I'm going to say this. There's another story that maybe we'll get to in a bit, that 48 of Trump's appointees have been confirmed in a single vote, which I don't think has it ever happened before?
No.
48 political appointees got confirmed in a single swipe of a pen, 51 to 40, I think the vote was. With Trump saying he's going to name Antifa a terrorist organization, with already criminal charges being sought among people like Letitia James and Adam Schiff, I would not be surprised if by next week we actually see arrests, political arrests.
I would like to.
I mean, the pace at which we are seeing action this past week following the killing of Charlie Kirk, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. Anyone who is advising Trump from a lizard brain setting, let me start by saying, with all due respect to Charlie Kirk, a good man, an honorable man who fought, there is a political reality that people don't want to discuss. And I am telling you, I am sure behind the scenes, an advisor to Trump said, with the death of Charlie Kirk, you effectively have carte blanche. You can do whatever you want because they killed Charlie. That is the cold lizard reality of what just happened. And I think when you see the moves that are being made, Jimmy Kimmel getting pulled off the air, people getting fired from their jobs, the American people do not have the tolerance for this degree of political violence. And the liberals are arguing that Trump is exploiting this for the purpose of expanding the security state or whatever it is he's doing. I think it's fair to say that there are advisors telling Trump, if you're going to do it, you got to do it now.
Well, it's got to be. He had 24 months. The clock is running. And that was the mistake of the first term, was slow rolling it. Oh, we'll get to it later. And then you get annihilated in the midterms, which is predictable even in the best circumstance. I mean, he's got to take action if there was stuff that he promised or if there are things that he fundamentally wants to do to change the way Washington operates. There's a very limited window. And let's be honest, I'll get through my election in November. We'll start up again in January. And then what? Everybody gets cold feet by about April or May, because then every member of the Congress has to go out and campaign. And they don't want anything too controversial that'll screw up their race. So everything kind of stops in D.C. about April, maybe May of next year.
Given the current political climate, do you fear for your safety at all as a Republican candidate?
There's nothing new. What's happened with Charlie Kirk is it made a lot of people pay attention. But the day I got the nomination, there was a guy, I was live streaming a press conference talking about my opponent, and there were people putting comments on the live stream, you deserve a bullet in your head. And I took it to the cops. They said, okay, we'll archive them. Nobody did anything about it. So I hate to admit this, but this is nothing new. Now, am I worried about it? This weekend, I'm going to be campaigning without security all over the state. And I'm 6'3". Normally, people don't mess with me. But if you want to blow somebody away, that doesn't matter. Yeah.
So you went to the authorities, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll look into it."
Well, what does this actually mean? And can we identify this person?
That's why we also cannot rely on the authorities to take action on these things, and that's why I'm so glad that whoever these anonymous people are that started the Charlie Kirk Data Foundation are doing the important work of archiving this information. They're not doxing anyone. Nobody is advocating for cruelty to people on the left.
I'm not saying kill that guy.
Yeah, we don't want to meet their cruelty with cruelty. We just want justice.
I just want to see people arrested so that way they're not a threat to society.
Indeed. People who are advocating or inciting violence should be charged for it.
Yeah.
And my attitude right now is, 5 years ago, if someone said, oh, won't someone rid me of this priest? I'd say, yeah, we get it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Today, if someone says it, I say, charge him.
Yeah. Andy, I brought him to Richmond to speak to this group that I founded, right? I knew it'd be somewhat controversial. We had it booked in a really nice private club. Antifa harassed the club. I mean, blew up the phone calls, scared them. We moved to a hotel. The same thing happened. We kept it secret until the day of the speech. Antifa went all over the hotel, made the front desk clerks cry, said we're going to murder and slaughter everybody who steps into the hotel. We got booted. We finally got Andy in front of a crowd. with, like a 1 hour notice of where it was going to be and had to have snipers in the parking lot. And there was a guy who was identified as posting minimally provocative stuff, like a guy carrying a TNT box, and he said, "I'm on the way to blow up the Andy No event." They let that slide. The prosecutor in my home county let it slide for about a month and then dismissed the charges. And I kept saying, when are you going to make an example of people to say you can't, with a wink and a nod, act like this is okay to intimidate people?
You know that they're planning on protesting Charlie's funeral.
Oh, disgusting, but I'm sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, but that will do horrible things for the left, because the optics of protesting a funeral of a man that was murdered is going to do more damage to the Democrat Party than Destiny did.
Well, that's like Westboro Church.
And you know what? If they had considered that, they would not have this. So I'll keep it light, but should they have considered that after this lunatic liberal shot and murdered Charlie, they would not have posted to social media celebrating the death, dancing on his grave. They don't care what you think. And I think the issue is, for the past 15 or so years, liberals ruled through fear and blunt and brute force. Most people don't agree that men are women or whatever, or children should get sex changes, but they were terrified that if they said anything, they would not only get fired from their jobs, they could be beaten for it. So they kept their mouths shut. And liberals and leftists, with impunity, could say whatever they wanted because they were willing to be violent, and police wouldn't do anything about it.
And they got used to it.
And now
the arrogance is out of control.
And now, exactly. Now that Trump is in office and people are feeling more comfortable calling it out, they went on social media and celebrated, and the backlash was intense. And now Jimmy Kimmel has lost his job. And they're starting to learn we don't tolerate it. No one should have ever tolerated it. But finally, people are waking up saying no. And Donald Trump is more empowered now, not just him, but law enforcement, to shut this down. A really great example. When that guy trampled the memorial, I think it was in Arizona, I'm not sure. And a bunch of supporters of Charlie Kirk
grabbed him
and threw him down. 5 years ago, those guys would have been arrested.
You're right.
They arrested the guy who trampled the memorial because the police know who butters their bread now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good.
That's the perfect example of how the tables have turned. The attitude has changed. Our side's not going to sit quiet, and I think the cops do realize who's on their side and who's not. And to your point about protesting Charlie's funeral, doing damage to the left, I would use the example of how the Westboro Baptist Church guys went and protested the gay people who died of AIDS. And interrupted funerals, where a decent person would say, no matter what I think of you, no matter how much I dislike you or I have a problem with you, bury your dead, and we're not going to interrupt you. I mean, that's just kind of a decent way to live.
Are you familiar with the Christmas truce? The famous World War I think it was.
Right.
That on Christmas, they lay down their arms and they drank hot cocoa and tea or whatever and celebrated Christmas enemies, and then with the next day went back to the trenches. It's just it's crazy.
And all that's been lost. That's what the left has done to this culture. People used to disagree. I mean, it probably wasn't as divergent. Well, we didn't have the divergent opinions as extreme as they are today, but at least people agreed on the way we generally treat each other. Like somebody, I mean, I wasn't around when Robert Kennedy was killed. I wasn't around when JFK was killed. I wasn't around when MLK was killed. But I'm guessing that if you had something really nasty to say about any of those killings, you probably would have said it in your house privately and not. Maybe someone will prove me wrong and pull up the archives, and they'll be able to prove that that's not true. But
thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.